On May 16, 2015, a woman named Kathy Ruemmler sent an email to Jeffrey Epstein. In that email, she wrote, quote, "I think the point is that if she was underage, she could not legally consent to engaging in prostitution." Epstein replied, quote, "If she continues to claim that she had sex with people for money, why is that not prostitution and what I plead guilty to? Every massage person got paid money. No girl came to the house to learn math." That email is document EFTA 002499750. It has 217 stars in the Department of Justice archive, making it one of the highest-rated documents in the entire release. Here's why it matters. Kathy Ruemmler wasn't a random lawyer. From 2011 to 2014, she served as White House counsel to President Barack Obama, the top legal advisor to the President of the United States. After leaving the White House, she became general counsel at Goldman Sachs and then general counsel at J.P. Morgan Chase. And in May of 2015, she was coaching a convicted sex offender on the legal framework around underage consent. That's not an opinion. That's a government document. The Jeffrey Epstein Department of Justice release contains 6,855 emails involving Kathy Ruemmler. To put that number in context, Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's most famous co-conspirator, has fewer. Bill Gates has fewer, combined. Ruemmler's contact with Epstein spans from at least 2014 to April of 2019, 3 months before his arrest. That is 5 years of sustained, documented contact with a registered sex offender who had already served time for soliciting a minor for prostitution. And this wasn't casual. The documents show regular meetings at Epstein's Manhattan townhouse at 9 East 71st Street, scheduled lunches, coordinated visits, contact cards shared with Epstein's personal attorney, Darren Indyke. Wine deliveries, her phone number in the records 202-669-7405. Document Volume 9, Document 003-63570, is a handwritten people-to-see list recovered from Epstein's files. It reads Bill Gates, Larry Summers, Leon Black, Peter Thiel, Kathy Ruemmler. And next to her name, Epstein's personal note, quote, "Also remind me of Kathy Ruemmler with Peter Thiel." She wasn't a peripheral figure. She was on the list. On October 15, 2014, Bloomberg reported that Kathy Ruemmler was President Obama's top choice to replace Eric Holder as Attorney General of the United States. Document House Oversight, Document 0026345, 47 stars. Ruemmler sent that Bloomberg article directly to Jeffrey Epstein. She sent it from her personal email, kathyruemmler.org. A second document, House Oversight Document 0026344, 52 stars, shows she also sent Epstein President Obama's Senate floor statement about the Attorney General nomination process. The thread contains 18 to 22 messages of back-and-forth conversation. Let that register. The person being considered for the highest law enforcement position in the country was in active, ongoing communication with a convicted sex offender about that very appointment. She ultimately withdrew from consideration. The press cited personal reasons. But the documents show that while her name was being floated for the job of America's top prosecutor, she was visiting the home of a man who had already been prosecuted. Now let's talk about Ariane de Rothschild. Ariane is the CEO of Edmond de Rothschild Group, a Swiss private banking dynasty managing approximately $25 billion in assets. She holds the title Baroness, and she appears in the Epstein archive more than almost anyone. 3,116 emails. Appearances on nearly every recovered daily schedule. A 4-hour meeting with sushi on September 11, 2014. Dinners, strategy sessions, business pitches. Document Volume 9, Document 003766792, 10 stars. Epstein's longtime assistant, Leslie Groff, wrote to staff, quote, "Baroness Ariane de Rothschild is very important. Yi flew in Janusz with him so he can drive her and her daughter around while they are in NY. Epstein provided personal drivers for the Baroness. He flew staff in specifically for her visits, but the relationship went deeper than hospitality. Document EFTA 023478887 shows Ariane telling Epstein, quote, "No problem, I'll take care of NYU and Brown." University admissions brokered through a convicted sex offender. In April of 2014, Epstein was advising Ariane on internal family business dynamics at the Rothschild Group. He wrote, quote, "You can do both. Offer her the girl's deal, and if she says no, politely suggest then that look into alternatives and wait. Ariane replied, quote, "Honestly, it would be a relief to not feel her presence around all the time." Epstein, "Yes, great. I suggest someone engage her lawyers in discussions to divert her energy from complaining." A convicted sex offender was serving as a strategic business advisor to the CEO of a $25 billion banking dynasty. The Deutsche Bank records in the Department of Justice release, Exhibit A, show approximately $202 million flowing through Epstein's accounts. Among the named sources, Leon Black, Black Family Partners, Apollo Global Management, and the Rothschild family. Edmund de Rothschild, Suisse SA, wired $10 million on December 17, 2015. Benjamin Edmund de Rothschild wired an additional $14,999,980. That's $25 million from the Rothschild family into Epstein's trust infrastructure, but money flowed in both directions. In February of 2017, just weeks after Donald Trump's inauguration, Epstein emailed Johnny L. Hakim, Ariane de Rothschild's infrastructure coordinator. Document Volume 9, Document 006295552. Epstein wrote, quote, "Trump will want to do private-public partnerships on most things. Donald loves the Roth." The sentence trails off, but the meaning is clear. Epstein was pitching the Rothschild Group's infrastructure fund to the incoming Trump administration. And in the same thread, Document Volume 9, Document 010544641, Epstein pitched Ariane on, quote, "alternate incarceration facilities as infrastructure investments, private prisons, pitched by a convicted sex offender, to a European banking dynasty, as a way to profit from the American prison system." The infrastructure fund itself is documented in House Oversight, Document 02643-1, 222 stars, the highest-rated document in multiple extraction chunks. It describes, quote, "senior and mezzanine debt which would yield 8 to 10% per year with a kicker." Now here is where Kathy Ruemmler and Ariane de Rothschild converge. And this is the part that takes the story from troubling to extraordinary. In 2015, the Edmund de Rothschild Group was under investigation by the United States Department of Justice as part of the Swiss bank program. This was the Department of Justice's initiative to crack down on Swiss banks helping American clients evade taxes. Dozens of banks were negotiating non-prosecution agreements, or NPAs. Document EFTA 002452665 shows that 90 police officers raided the Edmund de Rothschild Bank. Kathy Ruemmler sent this information directly to Epstein. Document Volume 9, Document 006936165. Ariane de Rothschild wrote to Epstein, quote, "This article in Swiss press, the letter by 72 banks to Department of Justice. I'm sure Kathy knows." She's referring to Kathy Ruemmler, the former White House counsel, who was now representing the Edmund de Rothschild Group in its Department of Justice negotiations. Document EFTA 018033331. Ariane wrote, quote, "For non-prosecution agreement, it will be signed by CEO." Document EFTA 0249998. Another non-prosecution agreement was announced, Rothschild Attorney General. And then the critical document, EFTA 027103343. Kathy Ruemmler sent the executed non-prosecution agreement, the actual signed non-prosecution agreement for the Edmund de Rothschild Bank, directly to Jeffrey Epstein's Gmail account. a former White House counsel representing a $25 billion Swiss bank in a federal investigation, sent the final settlement document to a convicted sex offender's personal email. Why? Why does a Swiss banking dynasty route its Department of Justice settlement through Jeffrey Epstein? Why does one of the most powerful lawyers in Washington send privileged legal documents to a man on the sex offender registry? Document EFTA 020700435 gives us a clue. Someone close to Epstein's operation noted, quote, "Kathy got stuck working on Rothschild stuff." She got stuck because the Rothschild account wasn't just legal work, it was embedded in Epstein's operation. On July 5, 2015, Jeffrey Epstein's private plane flew to Geneva, Switzerland. Document EFTA EA 024-98117 is the passenger manifest. It reads, G. Rothschild, Kathy Ruemmler. J.E. is Jeffrey Edward Epstein. Rothschild is Ariane de Rothschild. And Kathy Ruemmler is the former White House counsel to President Obama. All three on the same plane, flying to the home city of the Edmund de Rothschild Group. While the bank was under Department of Justice investigation, while Ruemmler was representing the bank, while Epstein was receiving the signed legal documents. Document Volume 9, Document 006255917 shows Ariane forwarding the introduction to Ruemmler to Epstein with the note, quote, "Need to focus on problem number 1. Problem number 1 was the Department of Justice investigation, and the solution ran through a convicted sex offender's private jet. Epstein didn't operate on one side of the political aisle. He operated on both, simultaneously." Document EFTA 025216667, February 2018. Epstein wrote to Kathy Ruemmler, quote, "Do you think Bill Clinton would like to join you, me, Ehud, and Steve? Could be very funny. All off the record. Ehud is Ehud Barak, former Prime Minister of Israel. Steve is Steve Bannon, former Chief Strategist to President Trump. And Kathy is Obama's former White House counsel. A dinner with representatives of 3 different presidential administrations brokered by a convicted sex offender. Off the record. Document EFTA 023797003, November 2015. Epstein casually wrote, quote, "Obama, Ruemmler, Wilkinson, and co. So much fun." And then there's the April 5, 2019 schedule. Document Volume 9, Document 00492542. 3 months before Epstein's arrest. 2 o'clock, Mooch, Anthony Scaramucci, Trump's former White House communications director. 3 o'clock, Bannon and Ruemmler, Trump's former chief strategist and Obama's former White House counsel. 5 o'clock, David Fizzle, all at 9 East 71st Street, all visiting a convicted sex offender, 3 months before the end. Document Volume 9, Document 003578457 stars. December 4, 2014. Epstein orchestrating introductions, quote, "Kathy should stay for Ben, so why don't we make Poe and her too?" Kathy, Ben Lawsky is the head of Financial Service Enforcement. Topic, Bitcoin. Ben Lawsky was the superintendent of the New York Department of Financial Services. He created the Bit License, the first major regulatory framework for cryptocurrency in the United States. Epstein arranged for Obama's former White House counsel to meet with the head of New York's financial regulatory agency at a convicted sex offender's home to discuss Bitcoin regulation. That's not networking. That's regulatory capture. A man on the sex offender registry brokering meetings between the people who write the rules and the people who enforce them. Document Volume 9, Document 020457716, September 13, 2017. Epstein's calendar reads 12:30 p.m., lunch with Ehud. 4:00 p.m., tentative, meet Kathy Ruemmler at Fekai. Fekai is a luxury hair salon on the Upper East Side, and alongside the calendar entry, Epstein sent an instruction to his staff, quote, "Add 2 o'clock, get Fekai info from Kathy. Girls should be well dressed." Girls should be well dressed. For a meeting with the former White House counsel. 1 month later, document EFTT Allier 025844702, October 13, 2017. Kathy Ruemmler shared a New Yorker article with Jeffrey Epstein. The article was by Gia Tolentino. The title, How Men Like Harvey Weinstein Implicate Their Victims in Their Acts. Obama's former White House counsel sent an analysis of how sexual predators operate directly to a convicted sex offender. Weeks after the Weinstein scandal broke, by late 2018, after the Miami Herald's investigative series brought renewed attention to Epstein, Kathy Ruemmler shifted into a different role. Document EFTA 0-2-6-10-2-84, 125 stars. Ruemmler wrote, quote, "Forgot to include the informant part. Use this version." She was drafting defense narratives, coordinating strategy with Michael Wolff, Darren Indyke, and Epstein himself. The documents show her characterizing trafficking as sexual favors, reframing the language to minimize the charges. This is a former White House counsel actively shaping the legal defense of a sex trafficking operation. And in February of 2019, document EFTA 0-2-2-7-6-4-1-2. Epstein's assistant reached out to Mary Erdoes, the CEO of J.P. Morgan's Asset Management Division, asking her to connect with Kathy Ruemmler. Erdoes replied, quote, "I left a message with her office, so connectivity is in motion." 6 years after J.P. Morgan had closed Epstein's accounts, 6 years after the bank supposedly cut ties, the CEO of J.P. Morgan Asset Management was still facilitating connections for Epstein. Through the former White House counsel. There's one more document, Document Volume 9, Document 008453317, 13 stars. September 24, 2015. Ariane de Rothschild forwarded the Rothschild & Co. Company website to Jacob Rothschild. Lord Rothschild, the patriarch. Jacob replied, quote, "Shocked, but not surprised. The references on the last page went even further than I'd expected. Let's talk next week. Love, Jacob." Private family correspondence between two members of the Rothschild dynasty, discussing internal company matters. That email is in Jeffrey Epstein's inbox, not because he hacked it, not because it was leaked, but because Ariane de Rothschild's communication with her own family flowed through channels that a convicted sex offender had access to. 6,855 emails from the White House counsel, 3,116 emails from the Baroness, 25 million in wire transfers. A signed non-prosecution agreement sent to a sex offender's Gmail, a flight to Geneva, Bitcoin regulation meetings. Girls should be well dressed. Defense narratives drafted, predator articles shared. And Jacob Rothschild's private words sitting in an inbox at 9 East 71st Street. These are not allegations. These are documents, released by the United States government, under the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Every claim has a document number. You can look them up yourself. The question isn't whether these relationships existed. The documents prove they did. The question is what exactly Kathy Ruemmler and Ariane de Rothschild were getting from a convicted sex offender that they couldn't get anywhere else, and why no one has asked them. Every document cited in this video is publicly available. Verify everything yourself. Submarine Intelligence. Subscribe.